In the 1970s, it took the world of cinema by storm.
到自己出嚟嗰個時代，幾乎係你識功夫，你都做得主角㗎啦。
It created a new generation of international stars like Jet Li.
我记得我从小11岁第一次看电影，动作电影，就是李小龙演的这个《精武门》。
It introduced the incomparable Bruce Lee, the man who brought Hong Kong to the filmmakers of Hollywood.
首先佢哋好欣賞就係香港人拍動作片嘅特色啦，咁佢哋亦都好希望咧能夠將呢種特色咧帶入去美國片裏邊。
It's Hong Kong's unique gift to the history of movie making. Kung Fu. Kung Fu can trace its history to the famous Shaolin Temple, where the monks taught martial arts. The temple was burned down in the 17th century by the unpopular Manchu government for harboring dissidents. The survivors fled southward and set up secret martial arts schools, notably in the province of Canton. Weapons were banned, so the martial artists practiced with the fist, the foot, and the pole. It was in a Canton martial arts school that cinema found its first kung fu hero. Wong Fei-hung first hit the screen in 1949. The leading role in the true story of Wong Fei-hung was played by the actor Kwan Tak-hing, a part he would subsequently reprise 75 times, so placing the Wong Fei-hung films in the Guinness Book of Records as the longest-running series ever.
佢黃飛鴻因為佢係代表咗有一種背景就係中國嘅民間嘅英雄人物。
不光是講一代武術的一個宗師。
眾英雄裏就走出咗一個叫超級英雄，咁就呢個叫黃飛鴻。
Wong Fei-hung was a real-life character who died in 1924. He was a famed sifu, or martial arts master, a skilled lion dancer, and a practitioner of Chinese medicine. In his hometown of Fatsan in the mainland Chinese province of Canton, a museum and lion dance center celebrates his memory. A revealing facet of the museum is a room entirely dedicated to the actor who originally played him in the movies, Kwan Tak-hing. Neither, it seems, would have been famous without the other.
The public always confused my father with the real Wong Fei-hung. There were many times he was addressed on the street or in the restaurant and in other places as Master Wong versus his real name of Kwan Tak-hing. The real Wong Fei-hung represents righteousness, represents a respect to others, represents the goodness, not just martial art of fighting, but of being fair.
你要時時刻刻咪忘記就學我個目的。你學我個目的咧，大為國家出力，小你最低限度都要全部安良。
Kwan Tak-hing's opponent was usually played by Sek Kin, who a generation later would play the villain opposite Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. Sek Kin remembers the financial importance of the Wong Fei-hung brand.
有時咧，啲老細咧，啲錢一棘，咁佢就揾黃飛鴻急急啦。黃飛鴻咧，乜黃飛鴻乜下面嗰個名咧，咁就去賣外埠版權啦。個個人都拍得，所以又拍得咁多。
Such is the popularity of the Wong Fei-hung character that he's seen many interpretations. As a clowning Jackie Chan in Drunken Master.
坐穩呀！
乱世中会有他的星座，穷强富弱贫穷，
As a cartoon character for children.
注定真是难容。
And most recently, as Jet Li in Choi Hak's Once Upon a Time in China. For 50 years, Wong Fei-hung, and with him the whole kung fu genre, has been steadily evolving. In the beginning, though, it was all quite haphazard.
以前拍粵語片咧係冇特別嘅武術指導，咁啊有啲演員咧自己識嘅就大家度啦，嚇你點嚟我點去，係咁度法。
譬如話講粵語殘片時代啦，咁啊一個鏡頭一個 wide shot， 哇關德興啊同呢個石堅啊，哇一路打咗15分鐘，咁然之後導演話夠皮咁啊熄機，但係咧。 就後來喺張徹啊、劉家良時代咧，嗰個時候已經轉變啦。
In the early 60s, directors began employing real-life martial artists to choreograph the fights for them. Credited as martial arts instructors, they were brought in initially to work on the popular swordplay films, working out the moves and teaching the actors how to fight. Preeminent amongst them was Lau Ka-leung, who choreographed fights for the great Hong Kong director Jiang Che. In time, Lau Ka-leung went on to become a director in his own right. Today, on a purpose-built studio lot in Shanghai, he's working on his latest movie, Drunken Monkey. He's director, star, and choreographer. Lau is a sifu, or master martial artist. But not all his actors are expected to be kung fu experts. During breaks in the shooting, performers are coached for the next scene. Shannon Yao, the female lead in Drunken Monkey, is learning martial arts for the first time.
如果難度高嘅個演員武術根底唔係好厚嘅，一定耐，因為我要教佢。如果個演員武術根底好嘅，一定快。
I will find out where his power come from. Like if he do this, something like this, if I just do this, you will see no power. And when I saw him, he do this from inside the power like this. And then I can feel that that's the power come from. And every movement, he will teach me slightly, swiftly, and precisely. Once I do it, he say, okay, go.
Lau Ka-leung is unusual in being both director and choreographer. He improvises the fight moves on the set, carrying the whole sequence in his head. Even without storyboards, Lau can create extremely complex fights. It's the way Hong Kong cinema has traditionally worked.
即係話嚟到呢個現場啊，打到邊度就度到邊度，唔會話事前我嚟睇景，會事先研究每個鏡位擺邊度啊。佢即係一個好大概嘅概略觀念。
Even a scene like the famous ladder fight in Once Upon a Time in China was created move by move in the studio.
那么拍起来当然是非常困难。那么整个我记得第一集的 ending 要拍了2个月，8个礼拜，就是因为大家都没有做过，大家都在试，就是因为你的梯子要用钢丝吊好了，掌握它的速度，那么大家的平衡怎么样在上面动作设计打斗，都是在一边琢磨一边设计的过程中进行的。 这个刚开始的 idea 是大家探讨，是来自于这个游戏机的这个一个 idea， 因为你可能早期的游戏机，80年代尾期的，你可以看到一些游戏机可以从这个环境爬楼梯到另外一个环境打来打去，到另外一个环境打来打去。
In the late 1960s, martial arts movies had become Hong Kong cinema's most successful genre. Run Run Shaw, head of the Shaw Studio, announced a new century of martial arts.
People go to the cinemas, they want some excitement, and the action is always received well by the people.
The incredible output of movies at this time from studios like Shaw's meant Hong Kong filmmakers had to learn techniques for working fast. A director might easily make 5 or more films in a year.
呢個係電影界嘅笑話嚟嘅。我一個人連去拍8部戲，就一日裏邊咧拍完甲戲嘅第34場，就跟住下個鏡頭咧就係乙戲嘅第18場，跟下再下嗰個鏡頭咧就係C戲嘅第15場30幾咁。跟住最主要可能年青咧記性好啦，所以咧就能夠。8部戲裏邊嘅人物個性啊，同埋出入場次啊，嗰啲感情啊，定劇本啊，都可以依次咁編段嚟寫。
The pressure to work fast and improvise had an interesting consequence. A style of directing unique to Hong Kong, known as editing in the camera. In feature films elsewhere, the actors normally repeat the whole of the action several times. This allows the director to film a variety of angles. On the first take, a wide shot. On the second take, a mid-shot. On the third take, a close-up. As the action is identical in each case, at any given point, the editor will have a choice of 3 shots. So the edited version might look like this. Selecting one picture size, then another. For reasons of time and money, Hong Kong directors would shoot each segment of the fight just once. Lau Ka-fai, actor brother to Lau Ka-long, demonstrates a kung fu routine. Now, for the benefit of our camera, he shows how the same routine is broken down into one-off takes, each one picking up from where the last left off. This is what is meant by editing in the camera.
即係我哋中國人好嘢就係香港電影嗰陣時好嘢就係冚唪唥喺個腦度，成個 idea 同個 design 啊、成啊，每個剪接位、每個動作落嚟啊，我哋都有個即係好明確嘅方向。
By 1970, the fashion for swordplay was on the wane, and the craze for kung fu had begun in earnest. Although this was the decade of Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, neither artist typified the kind of kung fu films the Hong Kong audience would soon be watching by the hundreds. '70s kung fu films had come a long way from the genteel Quan Tak Hing. The action was violent now, and the plot vengeful. They followed popular formats, recycling favorite elements over and over again. Lau Ka-leung's classic kung fu film, Challenge of the Masters, perfectly illustrates all the archetypal ingredients of the kung fu plot. To begin with, there's rivalry between 2 martial arts schools, one of whom doesn't play by the rules.
这就是铁齿。
Next, the hero, here played by Lau Ka-fai, is humiliated by being unable to defend himself. He's taken in hand by a sifu and becomes his disciple.
过几天我带他到乡下去，专心教他2年，你舍得吗？
The 2 years' training are spent in seclusion. The discipline is arduous.
麒麟步。
The disciple must always be subservient to the sifu contemptuous of the disciple.
这样的就挨不住了。
Tortuous exercises are a staple ingredient. But the plot requires a motive, and the motive is always revenge. The hero's friend and mentor is killed by a criminal member of the rival martial arts school using a secret weapon.
师傅，我知道元正叔叔是被谁打死的，谁？我不说，我不让你们去找他，我要自己替元正叔叔报仇。
The disciple is inspired to even greater efforts to become the supreme martial artist. But his thirst for vengeance must be tempered by tolerance.
你用武功将一个人打倒，只不过是打倒对方的身体。可是，你能替别人着想，公正、明理，你就能制服对方的心。那才是真正学武功的真理。
Finally, the hero returns to take his revenge. But remembers the words of his master.
多宽恕，少逞强。阿红，这6个字你要谨记谨记。
功夫樣嘢咧，佢學到師傅一樣嘢咧，就嗰種武德、武術嘅道德。武術嘅道德好簡單一樣嘢嘅。師傅對我講過，嗱，你一拳砰打死人，嗰人死咗啦，佢服唔服你啊？唔服㗎，已經死咗啦我。但我唔打死佢，砰拎起佢，唔好啦，第時乖啲啦。佢服唔服我咧？佢會服我嘅。 所以武術咧，我拍嘅武術片咧，係有道德嗰種係一種維持一種點到即止，唔好拍咩，嗖扶起你。
La Garlong's films lay great stress not just on morality, but on the physical training of the kung fu hero. In 8 Diagram Pole Fighter, Yang is a soldier who takes refuge in a monastery. Buddhism forbids the monks from taking life, so they practice their one martial skill, pole fighting, on wolves made of wood. Yang turns his spear into a pole and learns the monk's defanging technique. The practice subsequently proves useful in the showdown with the enemy. In the 36th chamber of Shaolin, one of Hong Kong's most celebrated kung fu films, the training becomes the story itself.
这是练功的基本过程，你一定要提着水上斜坡，倒在藏水处， 留下10里，让。
The hero Sante learns martial arts at the famous Shaolin Monastery in order to avenge the death of his family. He has to graduate from each chamber in turn, where outlandish exercises have been devised to improve his strength and skill.
当烛光动摇的时候，你的眼珠就要跟着转动。 我说过，头不能随着眼珠转动。再来。
The course takes him 5 whole years.
双手掏腰，头用劲顶开沙包，到佛祖前上一炷香。是。
The choreographers of the 70s were first and foremost martial artists themselves. Often they drew on the practices of the martial arts schools, then made their own elaborations. In real life, martial artists train on a wooden dummy. In The Challenge of the Masters, the filmmakers added some extras. Jackie Chan in Drunken Master takes a routine exercise and adds his own inventiveness.
好譬如醉拳90度咁啊，腹肌上，咁啊腹肌有喎，筆水係冇嘅。咁你好啦，咁我哋腹肌加個筆水，咁啊有娛樂性多啲啊？點樣要練呢啲係練腹肌嘅？
殘咯！嗱，我做一個快動作俾你睇。
Kung Fu in the cinema needs to be entertaining, so is not necessarily the same as real Kung Fu. Lung Ting has experience of both. Today, he's Grandmaster of the Wing Chun School of Martial Arts. In the 1970s, he was a top cinema choreographer.
咁當然，如果要拍一套電影咧，你要去好細心去諗下，喂呢個有冇可能咧？或者呢個拍唔拍到？因為有好多真正嘅武術咧。 上鏡未必係好睇嘅，你就要刪除嗰啲啦，或者譬如甚至冇玩一套拳係有一啲套路咧，重複完又重複。如果你真係上鏡咧，咁樣拍法咧就會悶死觀眾咯。咁所以喺構想一啲嘢入邊咧，就要可以講係攞最靚嗰啲鏡頭俾觀眾睇。
In real life, the martial arts schools practice a number of different styles. The pitting of one style against another was a favorite theme of the Kung Fu film.
老一个南派妖马，你的北派功夫也不错嘛。
这是什么招式？洪家拳里的鹤嘴，要不要再试试？
And once the real styles were exhausted, the martial arts directors simply invented new ones.
你以为练了1年的气功，就挡得住我的穿心腿？
大法鹰爪。冲背劈挂。
In The Five Venoms, the villains practice different styles named after poisonous creatures.
一共有5位师兄，现在先说第1个，你大师兄张小天，练的是蜈蚣功。 他外号叫百足千手，就是说他出招迅速，如同百足千手。
It was Long Ting's job to make the styles up.
嗱，白竹係最難諗嘅，因為今日冇呢樣嘢㗎。咁啊點咧？白竹一條長嘅形有咁多腳，於是咧我就諗到啦，有一個演員咧係好似譬如話我哋詠春都係以快打慢，我就諗到一個演員咧，佢可以用好快嘅手一打出嚟咧，好似一條白竹咁好多手影啊！
In return to the 36th chamber, the young hero invents a style all his own. He's a scaffolder working at the Shaolin Temple who observes the monks at their martial arts below. Practicing while he works, he gradually develops his own technique. When it comes to the inevitable showdown with his enemies, they find there are few defenses against scaffolders' kung fu. But despite the inventiveness of the choreographer, the basic fighting style of these kung fu films had changed little since the days of Wong Fei-hung. The combatants parry one another's moves endlessly, with neither actually landing a blow for minutes on end. No one pretends it's realistic. But there was another kind of kung fu film, the product of a one-man phenomenon whose influence on martial arts cinema would be legendary. The phenomenon was Bruce Lee.
佢將成個功夫熱潮帶咗起身，佢就係第一個將嗰啲腳法擺咗喺度。啊，你三腳蹦蹦蹦，哇，好嘢！
就係咁多啫，唔好打好多嘢嘅，唔好打喺手度，啪啪啪啪啪啪啪啪，沒有冇嘅，係啪就中啦。想觀眾睇另外一格㗎。
Bruce Lee believed that kung fu in the cinema should be no different from the real kung fu he practiced, a style of his own making.
佢話俾我聽，佢喺美國練緊截拳道。我又問佢咩叫截拳道，話鬥快咯，啪！你出拳，砰！我要快過你嘅，叫截拳道。
你信我拍過一場戲。 一場嗰隻一個鏡頭拍一場嘅，嗰陣時誒精武門係嘛？第一場戲就打嘅，我啲項目嗰陣時買，俾佢同佢打㗎，即係你知啦，你上龍嘅叻㗎嘛，賣嗰啲一下就瞓低，一下瞓低㗎啦嘛，俾佢同你打咁多下㗎，係嘛？個個都係㗎啦，即係。
佢對呢個電影嘅貢獻同埋對武術嘅貢獻係完全係相當之犀利嘅，同埋一個係好新嘅啟示，同埋喺視覺上啊，對人對武學上嘅觀點啊，同埋個理論啊，都係唔一樣嘅。
That is the expression of the human body. I mean, everything. I mean, not just the hand. And when you're talking about combat, well, I mean, if it is a sport, now you're talking about something else. You have regulations, you have rules. But when you're talking about fighting as it is, no rules. With no rules,
not real fighting.
Well then, baby, you better train every part of your body. And when you do punch, now I'm leaning forward a little bit, hoping not to hurt any camera angle. I mean, you got to put the whole hip into it and snap it and get all your energy in there and make this into a weapon.
佢俾我哋不但止淨係話喺武術上嘅觀點個觀摩，同埋喺文讀上嘅意識啊，同埋喺武學上嘅理論同埋哲學，俾我哋有好大嘅感受。
我記得我從小11歲第一次看電影，動作電影，就是李小龍演的這個 李小龙演的精武门。
你當自己係大日本嘅狗仔，我帶你入去玩，
早期的中国的电影都比较强调自我意识很强，就是说中国人全是好的，那不管是日本人、外国人、西洋人，所有人都是坏的，在电影里去描写。
Incredibly, Fist of Fury was one of only 5 films in which Bruce Lee actually starred. His last finished film was Enter the Dragon with Sekin.
外景就拍晒啦，咁啊到過咗舊歷年呢，休息後呢就廠景。我自己喺化妝室啊就化妝，佢喺我身後行過就坐喺呢邊，忽然有句話，佢話堅叔，我唔會有你咁長命啊！我話點解啊，世澤？佢老豆係我朋友啊嘛，所以我叫佢做世澤。我話舊時呢，你靠武術食飯，梗係要成日練啦。而家你做電影啦，應該俾啲時間休息下。佢話我當電影係副業咁嘅咋，咁冇得講啦。
Bruce Lee died in 1973 of a cerebral edema at the age of 33.
咁快死咧，係比最好嘅。一路咧冇人睇噶啦，所以李小龍佢寫得真好。而家我哋嘅印象應該係佢 run power， 永遠諗住佢。
But his influence was everywhere. Zhang Xie, the king of swordplay, now began directing kung fu films with the same dramatic realism.
所以咧拍嗰啲係真嘅功夫啦，嗰類咁嘅戲，即係阿陳冠泰啊都拍過啦嚇。嗰類戲咧就係即係拳拳到肉嘅，唔係話嗰啲好花招啊。
But the new realism came at a price for the actors.
嗰啲演員咧就成日都受傷㗎，咁甚至乎尤其是啲演員佢唔識打嘅話咧，咁佢亂咁打，嗰啲龍虎武師就慘啦，俾佢一錘打到個鼻咁爆光啊，咁又有，咁有陣時龍虎武師自己都係喎，佢緊張一嗌 camera 咁佢 bang 咁，個演員又唔識招架，俾佢 bang 都係打到成面血啊，咁都有嘅。
我最記得我第一日拍動作片咧，就同汪宇拍嗰套叫《爛頭河》。咁有一個鏡頭咧，就係話要佢咧好出力咁樣打落我個肚嗰度，咁我就成個人反應咁樣。但係咧冇任何嘅 pad 嗰啲保護嘅嘢，咁導演就俾個劇本我，叫我塞咗喺度。咁我記得應該係俾佢打20幾拳，佢仲要係衝埋嚟咁樣好用力，咁我就咁好用力咁飛埋入邊。咁我就全部係。嗰日就係冇食飯，就係飲水，飲完水俾佢打完出廠就嘔完翻入嚟又拍，咁嗰一日係差唔多俾佢打咗幾個鐘頭，咁係直情喊咯，即係一路拍一路喊。
Apart from the realism of action sequences, Bruce Lee had left another legacy in the character of the hero. Gone now was the gentlemanly, philosophic Wong Fei-hung. Actors like Alexander Fusheng portrayed a new swaggering working-class hero, respectful only of his own fighting talents.
这家伙要借82张机子，你说行不行？哦，不行啊。那你呢？说行不行？也不行啊。全不行啊，就打。 还要借机子？
Fu Sheng was the leading man of the Shaw studio and heartthrob of the female audience.
你这个人，我不喜欢你。
In 1974, he teamed up with another rising star, Chen Kun-tai, in Heroes 2. Chen Kun-tai was a champion martial artist who started out as a film extra. In Heroes 2, he plays Hong, a rebel who fights his way out of the burning Shaolin Temple and becomes a fugitive. A famed martial artist played by Fu Sheng is tricked by the Manchu into capturing him, believing him to be a murderer.
你是？他刚才怎么忽然停手了？
When he finds out his mistake, he's filled with remorse and sets out to rescue Hong.
谁说我不来？我来了。洪大哥，我该死，我上了他们的当，以为你是一个杀人不眨眼的大盗。方兄弟，你要是拉得脱，我也争得开了。 你叫我兄弟。
Alexander Fu Sheng was director Zhang Che's favorite actor, tipped to become the major kung fu star. But his career was cut short. While filming 8-Diagram Pole Fighter in 1983, he was killed in a car accident. Meanwhile, other actors were hoping to step into the shoes of Bruce Lee.
咁啊，哇！嗰個係主角，嗰個主角，哇！我所有身邊嗰啲朋友做武師，全部做晒主角，咁啊個個都係啊 you， 全部係李小龍。我記得李小龍時代，哇好多嘅英文嚟講，尤其是英文添啊，喺外國 Bruce Lee、Bruce Lee、Bruce Table、Bruce Chair、Bruce Everything Blues。even 我都係second Bruce Lee， 唔係個海報係 second Bruce Lee、Jackie Chan。你離遠睇個海報就見到 Bruce Lee starring， 但係你再睇少少咧就係 second Bruce Lee、Jackie Chan 都係咁樣。
Bruce Lee was an impossible act to better, so kung fu directors looked around for an alternative.
诸圣神佛齐天大圣九天大仙齐来相助弟子。
They found it in comedy.
齐天大圣啊！
It was Lau Ka-leung who led the way, with his first film as director, Spiritual Boxer.
但如果我再拍李小龍嗰類咧，我唔會成功。我將功變咗係一種諧趣，我唔知得唔得㗎？一試出嚟真係好。
Spiritual Boxer tells the story of a confidence trickster, a conjurer, who claims he becomes possessed by the spirits of the gods.
庄主听着，小民在，小民在。你要合庄人丁平安、五谷丰登、六畜无病，你就要点香膜拜。是，拜，还要大鱼大肉款待做法师傅，送他盘缠不得有误。是。
But he's an amiable rogue who uses his skill to defend the downtrodden.
齐天大圣，刘大瑞，你再敢为恶， 我叫你家破人亡，用武来震火，烧你全家。啊！你还不放人？
放。
It's a virtuoso performance by Wang Yu and was hugely popular at the box office. Lau went on to make in the same comedy vein what many consider the one true kung fu masterpiece, Dirty Ho. In Dirty Ho, a prince traveling incognito teams up with a thief who becomes his kung fu disciple. Assassins are out to kill the prince.
是蒙古铁柱信战袍，小心点哦。
In this scene, one of them, masquerading as an antiques dealer, tries to attack the prince while pretending to make a sale.
这是唐朝羊脂白玉如意，下盖的雕刻功夫不错。
The prince feigns not to notice the attack while simultaneously defending himself. These complex routines were as close to juggling as to combat.
好盆，好盆。
But Lau Kar-leung was not the only one looking for a new kind of kung fu after Bruce Lee's death.
咁我就自己喺度諗，我點樣去同 Bruce Lee 唔同？我睇佢係好 superhero， 我唔係 superhero， 佢係一錘打完你，係咁嘅，好，我就一錘打完人哋，佢起腳咁高，我起腳咁低，咁佢做晒咩咧？誒冇咯喎 ，OK， 我加啲嘢啦，我再加啲關鬥，我再加啲過台跳嘢，高難度嘅。
英雄已死，小丑登場。呢8個字咧，實在我哋係講緊兩個人物。第一個人物咧就係李小龍，第二人物咧就係成龍。既然我哋做不成英雄，點解我哋唔做一個反面英雄 （anti-hero） 或者我哋叫 comic hero 喜劇英雄？咁啊就係俾佢攞到呢個 point。
Jackie Chan brought clowning and acrobatics to Kung Fu. His background could not have been more different from Bruce Lee's. His Kung Fu came not from the martial arts school, but from the theater. From the age of 8, Chan had been trained in a Beijing opera school.
除咗係有學唱歌啦、跳舞都有，跳舞啦、武術啦，有拳腳、刀槍劍擊、關鬥，乜嘢都有，即係差唔多係一個中國國粹一種總匯合。
1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8。
The brutal discipline of the actual opera school attended by Jackie Chan was recreated in a 1988 movie, Painted Faces. The part of the Sifu was played by Sammo Hung, who'd been a fellow pupil with Chan.
其實咧，我接受訓練嘅日子咧，嗰個回憶嘅記憶力咧就係痛苦。嗰陣時就係練功啊，咁一就係師傅教得好嚴啊。嗰個時代喺度練功啊，成日唔會諗到唔會諗其他嘢，咁就係覺得由從新嘅一日開始啦，睇點樣盡量少啲俾師傅打啦，即係咁啊。
不許撞！好都不學學偷東西。
唔知打我唔知3下5下，哇！一打完我即係我喊到啊！飛走，唔知走去邊，爸爸又唔喺度，我叫阿媽，阿媽又唔喺度。
But the disciplined training paid off. Jackie Chan went on to adapt the skills learned in the opera school to a new style of cinema. Drunken Master, released in 1978, was his first major box office hit.
白鹤亮翅，你这手啊一点劲儿都没有，你怎么能够练得好功夫呢？
This disrespectful take on the Wong Fei-hung story allowed Jackie to import his own comic inventions.
夜晚黑一定係同導演坐喺 coffee shop 講，聽日拍咩？聽日拍咩？呢個。咁我好 lucky 嗰陣時，呢個袁和平導演就好聽我嘅。
The novelty of the plot was that Chan's character has to learn his inebriated Sifu's drunken style of fighting. As no such style had ever existed, he was obliged to make it up as he went along.
當全部走晒，我自己一個人喺健身室對住塊鏡，點樣去擺呢個醉拳？點樣打靚佢？個手勢係應該點嘅？咁啊自己對住塊鏡，唔係話我唔係，我全部係咁樣。好啦，點樣去醉？
佢形容佢係一個戲班，佢喺戲班成長，佢係一種藝術嘅功夫，唔係愛嚟，唔係一種 martial art 去打嘅，佢係唱戲，類似京劇，一種咁嘅功夫，一種藝術。
Jackie Chan's brilliant slapstick was to be the final evolution of the kung fu film. While traditional martial arts movies continued to be made, kung fu fighting took a second course to emerge in modern-day action films. And this time it was Hollywood who would have to learn from Hong Kong, inviting Chinese directors and choreographers like Corey Yun to show them how it's done. The man behind the action-packed fight scenes in X-Men, Yun had trained together with Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung at the Beijing Opera School in Hong Kong. Kung fu films come uniquely from Hong Kong, where today they're already being made for a third generation of moviegoers. But they're also Hong Kong's gift to the world, a wholly original and unique contribution to the history of cinema.